So in this question, I'm asked to enlarge shape A by the scale factor of a third, and this has a centre of 0, 1. So when I'm working with transformations, it's a good idea to make sense of the shape that I'm working with to begin with, and to have a rough idea of what's going to happen to it. So if we have a look at the centre 0, 1, that's going to be this point here, which is already marked on the graph, and then we have this shape A here. Now we're enlarging this shape by a scale factor of a third, and a third is less than 1. So in a sense here, we're going to be shrinking the size of the shape. The shape is going to end up smaller than it was originally because the scale factor is less than 1. So we're going to be looking for a smaller shape. We're also going to be looking for a shape in the same sort of orientation. So it's going to look like shape A. It's going to just be a bit smaller and in a different place. So it's not, because there's not a negative scale factor, it's not going to be in another quadrant, it's not going to be flipped, it's going to be the upright image, just a third of the size in a sense. So now I can start working with the image now that I've got a good idea of what it's going to look like, and I can perform this enlargement on shape A. So a good way to do it is work from the centre of 0, 1 and then draw lines out to the points on shape A. For example, if I start with this top left point. Now if we want to enlarge it by a scale factor of a third, we basically need to find a third of the length of this line, and then we can mark on the same point on A on this new shape that we're drawing. So for this line that I've just drawn in here, we've basically gone 3 across on the x-axis, so an increase of 3 on the x-axis, and then 9 upwards in the y-axis. So if we've had a kind of movement of 3, 9, if we were to write that in coordinate form, and we want to enlarge this shape by a scale factor of a third, we can kind of multiply this by a third to find the new point of the new coordinate of this point. So if I were to multiply that by a third, we could then move 1 across and 3 up to get to our new point here. So if I take 1 across and 3 up, we're going to get to the point 1, 4, which I can mark on the axes here. So similarly for the other points, if I draw the line out, then I can see here that we need a third of the length of this line because that's the scale factor. And we've moved across here by 6 and up by 9 again. So if we multiply this by a third, we have 6 multiplied by a third, which gives us 2 across, so 2 in the x-axis, and then 9 multiplied by a third gives us 3 up in the y-axis. So we reach this point here, which again seems right because we have these 2 points which have the same y value here, and then we're going to have that side here, which is going to be a third of this because we have 3 squares here and just 1 here. So working with this same sort of idea, if I want to look at this point, now we have 6 squares, this side is 6 squares long, and if we multiply that by a third, because of this scale factor, we're going to get 6 multiplied by a third, which gives us 2. So I now know that the side here is going to be 2 squares long. So I didn't even have to draw the line on this one. I can simply mark the point here 2 squares lower than this point here. So a decrease of 2 in the y-axis at this point. And then we can just about see where the next point and the final point is going to be. But similarly here, if we take the 3 squares that we have here, so between this top right corner and this final point we need to plot, we've got 3 squares in the y-axis. I can multiply this by a third to give me 1, and I can take this point here, which is the top right point on A, and move this down by 1 to get this point here, which we can see does basically make up the shape A if we are to connect all of these points together to get our new shape, which is a third of the size of shape A. It is the same orientation and looks the same, it's just smaller than A. And that's how we enlarge this shape by a scale factor of a third with the centre that we're given. So here we'd gain the first mark for either a diagram of the correct size and orientation but in the wrong position, or for having 3 of the 4 vertices correct and joined together, or for having 4 correct vertices but not joining them together to make the shape. And then the second mark here is for this fully correct enlargement with the coordinates that I've shown in the diagram.